Hello friends, this is lesson number 39 under the section of British literature in English. And if you remember, we started this series of British literature and then we moved towards the literary criticism in English. So I thought that why not to continue both these series in parallel. So I shall be recording the lessons of British literature as well as of the literary criticism in parallel. So the last time we were discussing the age of revival, and under this age we had several major and minor poets. So among them one more name we have, that is William Dunbar. And today in this lesson we shall discuss a few of the things about him. Okay, not so important writer, not so many works that we have to discuss, but a few of the characteristics and two important works. These are enough for him, I think. So first, about his timeline. So there is not any accurate details about his birth and death, but from several sources whatever I got, that is around 1459 or 60 he was born, and somewhere around 1520 or 30 he died. So the later part of the 15th century and the earlier few decades, 1 or 2 decades of the 16th century he was living. So the first important point about him, that he was called as Scottish Chaucerian. Scottish Chaucerian. So now what does it mean? We remember, or in fact, if you have gone through the previous lessons, we discussed Sir Geoffrey Chaucer. Sir Geoffrey Chaucer. So the writers or the poets, especially the poets who followed the ways of Chaucer, Sir Geoffrey Chaucer, they were called as the Chaucerians. So there are a few writers in England in English literature as well as in Scottish literature, from Scotland, Scottish, we have this word. So we have several poets who followed the ways. Ways in a sense, if you remember that I told you that Sir Geoffrey Chaucer developed a scheme, that is the rhyme scheme, that is called as rhyme royal stanza. So the same stanza is being used by these poets, rhyme royal. So it is a grand style of writing and that he applied in his poems. So the same thing is being used by these writers or these poets. So they are called as the Chaucerians. So among the Scottish Chaucerian we have two important names. One is Robert Henryson and other is William Dunbar. In fact, it was a question in UGC NET exam that who are the Scottish Chaucerian. There were the four names like John Lydgate, John Gower, then we have William Dunbar and Robert Henryson. So we have two names, Robert Henryson and William Dunbar, as the Scottish Chaucerian, and the other names like John Lydgate, John Gower, they are the English Chaucerian. So remember, there is a term called as English Chaucerian, the English writer, the British writers, the British poets who followed the style, the forms, how he used to apply the themes, whatever. Means we can say in brief that the ways of Chaucer, Sir Geoffrey Chaucer. So we have British writers as well who followed the same ways. So the next thing about the major characteristics about his works. Okay, one more thing that is coming into my mind, that he wrote during the golden age of Scottish poetry. At that time he was employed in the court of King James IV. King James IV of Scotland. In the globe or in the map you can see that Scotland is in the northern part or in the northern direction of Britain. So in the northern part we have Scotland, and in the southern part or in the southern direction we have Britain. So these are just like neighboring countries, and So from the Scotland we have the Scottish Chaucerian, and from Britain we have the English Chaucerians. Okay, one more country you can add in that, that is Ireland. That is also part of that Great Britain, Scotland, Ireland, and England itself. Okay, about the Saphir, what he touched, he wrote poetry on various subjects, on moods, and he also wrote religious works and comic poetry, everything he wrote. And he obtained his master's and bachelor degree and master degree from St Andrews University from Scotland. Now about two important works. The first work, that is Lament of the Makers. This is very important work, Lament of the Makers. This word makers, somewhere it is used as makars or makaris. So the meaning of this word is, that is poets. So lament, you know, that is regretting, you are missing, means you are feeling something, and for the poets. So in this work he is just feeling for the fellow poets, or even you can say the senior poets, like the great ones John Lydgate, Sir Geoffrey Chaucer, John Gower. So several names are there whom he is just missing and trying to feel their class of poetry. So he also talks about several issues related to mortality and death. And one more name we should add to this list, because this important name will also be discussed in the other work, and the name is Walter Kennedy. Walter Kennedy. And this poet was a rival of William Dunbar. So try to remember the three other names, like John Lydgate, John Gower, Sir Geoffrey Chaucer. They are just the common names you find during this age. But one more name, that is the Walter Kennedy. And Walter Kennedy was always in disputes, or in some sort of, you can say, the fight, or any sort of a controversy with William Dunbar. The other work that we have, that is the Flyting of Dunbar and Kennedy. So now the name comes, Flyting of Dunbar and Kennedy. Again, this word flyting, okay, we can correlate this work to the things whatever I have told you. So it is related to fighting. So there was a rivalry between them. So it was like a fighting of Dunbar and Kennedy. So they were always on the contrary views. Okay, one more, or one very important fact about their rivalry was, William Dunbar belonged to the Scots-speaking people of Lothians. So there is a place in Scotland, Lothians, and he belonged to these peoples, this community. They were Scots-speaking. And Walter Kennedy, he was among the Gaelic-speaking people in southern Ayrshire. So it was in different direction of the Scotland. So you can understand this fact as there were two regional communities in Scotland. To one community we have William Dunbar. He was among the Scots-speaking people, Scot language. And we have Walter Kennedy. He was Gaelic-speaking. He was belonging to the Gaelic-speaking people. So there was always some sort of a contradiction or controversy among these people. So there was that sort of, you can say, the personal rivalry or antipathy. You can take antipathy between these two communities. So that is why they were always up against each other. So the title, that is why we have the Flyting of Dunbar and Kennedy. So these were the two important works about William Dunbar. One is Lament of the Makers. In that he discusses, or he just misses or recalls, I should say, the fellow or the senior poets like John Lydgate, John Gower, or Geoffrey Chaucer. And other work is Flyting of Dunbar and Kennedy. So apart from these two works, I have also told you about the main fact that he belonged to the Scottish Chaucerians. So we are not going to discuss Robert Henryson. So just try to remember these two poets. So there was a question, I already told you that we have the two people, Robert Henryson and William Dunbar as the Scottish Chaucerian, and one more question was there in UGC NET exam that in the title Laments of the Makers, what does it mean by the makers? Makers does not mean by the god or so, it means that poets. So that's it about William Dunbar. So thanks for watching this lesson. Have a great day.